My name is Valerie Green. I'm 36, a mother of two, and the woman my husband thought would never walk away. But he didn't know who he married. He didn't know I was born to survive. And most importantly, he didn't know that one day I'd make him regret every lie he ever told me. Let me take you back to the beginning, before the betrayal, before the lies, before the woman in my bed that wasn't me. I met Mason when I was just 22. I had just landed my first real job at a law firm downtown, and he was the charming architect working on a building across the street. We used to grab coffee from the same cart. One day, he offered to pay for mine. And that small gesture turned into months of lunch dates, late-night talks, and eventually, a ring on my finger. To everyone around us, we were perfect. Picture perfect. He had a dazzling smile, always open doors, remembered anniversaries, at least at first. And I was the supportive wife. The one who packed his lunches, left little notes in his briefcase, and stood beside him like a trophy he could display at business dinners. But behind closed doors, things were different. The cracks started small. Missed calls. Late nights. That vague perfume on his jacket, that wasn't mine. I told myself I was imagining it. That I was tired, hormonal, insecure. After all, we had just had our second child. I was exhausted, nursing a baby while juggling freelance legal work from home. I wasn't wearing makeup anymore. I barely had time to shower, let alone put on heels and lingerie. Mason said he understood. He told me to rest. Said I was beautiful no matter what. But his eyes started drifting. His phone was suddenly always face down. His passwords changed. And one night when he said he was working late, I felt it in my bones, that gut-deep ache that something was wrong. So I did what I swore I'd never do. I checked his laptop. And what I found shattered everything. There were emails. Dozens of them. Photos, too. And messages that no married man should ever send to another woman. Her name was Chloe. She was 26. Blonde. Worked in marketing. Single. And very available. He called her baby. Told her he loved her. Said I was just the mother of his kids and that he was stuck in the marriage for now. I couldn't breathe. I sat there, staring at the screen, with my baby sleeping in the bassinet next to me and my toddler's toys scattered on the living room floor. The life I had built was a lie. I didn't cry. Not at first. I just sat there frozen. Then I closed the laptop, picked up my baby, and rocked her slowly, whispering, "Mama's got you. Don't worry, baby. We're gonna be okay." I didn't confront him right away. I waited. I needed a plan. I needed proof. I needed power. So for 3 months, I played the role of the clueless wife. I smiled. I cooked his favorite meals. I let him think he had me wrapped around his finger. Meanwhile, I documented everything. I saved emails, copied text messages, even recorded a phone call where he told her, "She's too dumb to notice." Dumb? No, Mason. Not dumb. Patient. And patient women were the ones you should fear the most. I hired a lawyer. Quietly. A woman named Jessica who specialized in high-stakes divorces. I told her everything. We came up with a strategy. Not just to divorce him, but to destroy his carefully crafted image, to take back every piece of myself that he tried to break. But I wasn't going to serve the papers just yet, because I wanted him to feel safe so that when I pulled the rug out from under him, he'd fall hard. And fall he would. This wasn't just going to be a divorce. This was going to be a reckoning. I remember the morning I decided to take the first step. Mason was in the shower, humming some old R&B song like he didn't have a secret second life. I stood there in the doorway, watching the steam curl out from under the bathroom door, holding his phone in my hand. I had watched him punch in the passcode just the night before. He was careless, arrogant. I unlocked it. There they were, messages from Chloe. "I miss you already, babe. Last night was incredible." And a photo. Her. In my favorite black lace robe. I stared at it for a moment. That robe had been a gift from Mason, back when he used to want me. And now, he was watching another woman undress in it while I washed his dirty socks and made his favorite omelet every Sunday. I emailed everything to myself. Every picture. Every message. Every proof of betrayal. Later that day, while Mason was at work, I dropped our kids off with my sister and drove to Jessica's office with a flash drive full of secrets. She looked through the files with a calm intensity and nodded. "This is more than enough," she said. "You've got grounds for full custody and a generous settlement. But I have a feeling you want more than money." I smiled coldly. "I don't want just a settlement, Jessica. I want a lesson. I want him to feel what it's like to be humiliated, to be discarded, to be powerless." Jessica leaned back in her chair and smirked. "Then we'll do this my way." For the next few weeks, I became an actress in my own life. I kissed Mason goodnight, sent him flirty texts. I even planned a weekend getaway to reconnect. He thought I was still blind, still broken. What he didn't know was that while he was sneaking out for late-night rendezvous, I was meeting with private investigators, accountants, and family lawyers. I found out he had transferred money to a private account. He was planning to leave me eventually, once Chloe gave him the green light. Probably once she thought I'd be too worn down to fight back. He underestimated me. One night, during dinner, I looked him straight in the eyes and said, "I was thinking, maybe it's time we renew our vows." He nearly choked on his wine. "Really? You mean that?" I nodded. "We've been through so much. I think we deserve a fresh start." He smiled like a man who thought he'd won. "That sounds amazing, babe. Really? I'd love that." Inside, I was screaming. The vow renewal was just a cover, a distraction, something to make him think he was still in control. And it worked. I invited his parents, our friends, even some of his colleagues from the architecture firm. We held it in our backyard, fairy lights strung above us, soft jazz playing from speakers. I wore white, not because I believed in the sanctity of our marriage anymore, but because I wanted him to remember the woman he'd betrayed. Right before the ceremony, while the guests were mingling with wine glasses in hand, I took the microphone and tapped it twice. Everyone turned to me. "Before we begin," I said, "I just want to say a few words about love, about loyalty, about what it really means to stand by someone." Mason looked confused but smiled nervously. "Babe, what are you doing?" I took a deep breath. "I'm telling the truth." Then I pressed play on the remote. On the projector behind me, every message, every photo, every video I had gathered played in a silent, brutal montage. Chloe in the robe. Mason telling her I was dead inside. Mason telling her he couldn't wait to be free. The crowd gasped. His mother clutched her chest. His boss's mouth hung open. Mason lunged forward. "Valerie, turn it off. What are you doing?" I stared at him, calm as ever. "You said I was too dumb to notice. I just wanted to let you know I noticed." And then I walked away. The fallout was delicious. His firm put him on leave. His parents were too ashamed to speak to him. Chloe? She dumped him once she realized she'd never get the cushy, suburban life he promised. Turns out she didn't want a disgraced architect with 2 kids and a divorce lawyer on his tail. But I wasn't done yet. The next morning, I served him the divorce papers. In front of our kids. In front of my sister. In front of the nanny. Because if he was going to play dirty, so was I. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me. That's because he didn't. The woman he cheated on? She was gone. This new me? She had fire in her veins and a war to win. The day after I served the divorce papers, Mason moved into a cheap hotel near the highway. He had the nerve to call it temporary. He said we just needed space to cool off. Cool off? You cheat. You lie. You humiliate me. And now you want space? No, Mason. You're going to get exactly what you gave me. Disrespect, instability, and consequences. Jessica, and I moved quickly. My plan wasn't just to get out of the marriage. I wanted everything Mason once bragged about. The house, the cars, the investments, even the country club membership his father passed down to him. First, we froze the joint accounts. Then, with the forensic account Jessica recommended, we traced the money he had tried to hide. Turns out, Mason wasn't just disloyal, he was sloppy. Half of the accounts were in his name alone, but they were filled with marital assets. That made them fair game. While I filed motions, Mason kept calling, sometimes to scream, sometimes to beg, always to manipulate. Val, think about the kids. You're ruining their home. I laughed. No, Mason. You did that. When you brought another woman into our bed. Don't you dare use our children to clean up your mess. He called less after that. The kids, by the way, were okay. I made sure of it. I put them in therapy with a licensed child psychologist who helped them process everything gently. I didn't badmouth Mason in front of them. I didn't need to. Children feel truth long before they understand it. Our oldest, Lila, asked me one night, "Mommy, why don't you love Daddy anymore?" I held her close and said, "I love you and your brother with all my heart. But sometimes, when someone keeps hurting you, loving them hurts more than leaving them." She was quiet for a moment, then whispered, "I think Daddy made you sad a lot." And I knew she saw more than I realized. Mason tried to fight back in court, claimed I was emotionally unstable, that I set him up, that I exaggerated everything for revenge. Jessica smirked in court as she slid a folder of evidence across the table. "He recorded himself," she said, repeatedly. "We have video, audio, and bank transfers to a known mistress. If that's a setup, it's the most self-inflicted one I've ever seen." The judge didn't even blink. I got everything. Primary custody, the house, spousal support, child support. And because I exposed his affair so publicly, his professional reputation took a nosedive. Clients started backing out. Projects were reassigned. His name, once respected in design circles, became a whisper followed by pity, or worse, laughter. But you want to know the real twist? I wasn't finished. I started going back to work, not out of necessity, but out of hunger. Hunger to rebuild me. I took a consulting job with a legal tech startup. Within months, I was promoted to lead legal strategist. They loved my no-nonsense approach, my clarity, my story. One of the co-founders, Daniel, asked me during a pitch meeting, "How do you stay so calm under pressure?" I smiled. "When you've lived through hell, boardrooms don't scare you." He offered me a corner office. I didn't take it immediately. I didn't want my next chapter to be defined by running away from Mason. I wanted it to be about running towards something that was mine. And it was. Every paycheck, every promotion, every smile from my kids was mine. Then, one evening, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hello." "Valerie. It's Chloe." Silence. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I just leaned back in my chair and waited. "What do you want?" I asked calmly. She sighed. I didn't know everything. He told me you were cold, manipulative, that he was trapped." I almost laughed. "He manipulated me too, Chloe. You just believed the version that benefited you." She paused. "He's not doing well. He drinks. He says you ruined him." Now I laughed. "No, honey. He ruined himself. I just stopped covering for him." She sounded smaller now. "I'm sorry. I didn't say anything. She didn't deserve my comfort. But I also didn't need to punish her anymore. I had already won." 3 months had passed since the divorce was finalized. Our house, my house now, felt different. Lighter. Brighter. Like it had finally exhaled after years of holding its breath. I painted the living room. Took down the stiff family portraits Mason insisted on. Replaced them with photos of me and the kids. Laughing, dancing, free. I even adopted a dog, a floppy-eared rescue named Charlie, who snored louder than Mason ever did and had more loyalty in one paw than that man had in his whole body. Life was moving forward. But one thing about rebuilding from ashes, you never forget the fire. At work, I was thriving. The legal startup I joined, it was growing fast. Fast enough that national firms were sniffing around, trying to buy us out. I had a real seat at the table, boardroom votes, strategic meetings, my name on contracts. I wore confidence like armor now. And people noticed. Especially Daniel. We had grown close. First over business lunches, then late-night strategy sessions, and eventually over shared stories neither of us expected to tell. He was a single dad, too. Divorced for 2 years. A gentle soul, with sharp instincts. We weren't in love. Not yet. But there was something real there. A quiet understanding. One night, over dinner, he looked at me across the table and said, "You don't flinch anymore when someone brings up your ex. That's strength." I smiled. Or scar tissue. He reached across the table, not to hold my hand, but to hold space. I think it's healing. And just when I started to believe in peace again, Mason came crashing through the door of my life. Again. Not literally. He knew better than to show up in person. But through the court, he filed a motion to modify custody. His argument? That he had stabilized his life, and that the children deserved equal time with both parents. I stared at the paperwork in disbelief. Equal time? With a man who used to forget to pick them up from daycare? Who left our son with a fever because he had a meeting? Who tried to cheat his way out of child support by underreporting income? Jessica called me before I even had a chance to scream. "He's playing the long game," she said. "Probably can't afford the payments, so he's trying to use shared custody to reduce them." "Does he even want the kids?" I asked bitterly. Jessica's voice was calm, but clipped. "He wants control."
"This isn't about them.
"It's about you." I had to tell the kids. I didn't want to drag them into another storm, but they were old enough now. Lila was 8. Max was 6. Smart, sensitive, and far more observant than Mason realized. We sat on the back porch with hot cocoa. I told them Daddy wanted to spend more time with them. Lila asked, "Like a vacation?" Max said, "Will Charlie go too?" I swallowed. "Not exactly. He wants you to stay with him some of the time." Lila's eyes darkened. "But he never even comes to school things. You do all of that." I nodded. "I know, baby. And we're going to make sure the judge knows that too." The custody hearing was set 6 weeks out. I had one goal: protect my kids. So I gathered everything: text logs, absence records, medical appointments he missed, birthdays he forgot, even a statement from the school counselor who had flagged Mason's inconsistent involvement. But what sealed it? A voicemail. From Mason. Left accidentally. It was him, yelling at someone, probably a friend, saying, "I don't care about custody. I just want to stop writing her fat checks every month. Let her play supermom without my damn money." Jessica's eyes lit up when she heard it. This is gold. The day of the hearing, Mason walked in with slicked back hair and a tired-looking attorney. He tried to smile at me. I didn't smile back. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. His lawyer made a weak argument about father's rights and balanced parenting. My lawyer played the voicemail, presented the files, and ended with a simple statement. This man wants freedom from obligation, not responsibility for his children. The judge agreed. Custody stayed with me. Visitation remained supervised until further review. Mason looked like someone had unplugged him from his own illusion. And I walked out of that courtroom with my head high and my children safe. That night, Daniel came over. No big gestures. Just Thai takeout, a movie, and the quiet warmth of someone who wasn't trying to fix me, just stand beside me. Halfway through the movie, he turned to me and asked softly, "Do you ever think about what's next?" I smiled. All the time. Because for the first time in years, I had won. 6 months passed. 6 quiet, golden, unexpected months. For the first time in years, my life wasn't about survival or strategy. It was about joy. The kind of joy you don't post on social media. The kind you feel in your bones. The kids were thriving. Lila was writing stories. Max had joined a little league team. Charlie, our floppy-eared protector, had claimed the left side of my bed as his own. And me? I was whole. I didn't realize how broken I had been until I finally stopped bracing for impact. One evening, I was reading on the back porch when my phone buzzed. A name I hadn't seen in 15 years lit up the screen. Alyssa Bennett. My college roommate. My best friend back then. The same woman Mason dated for 3 months during our break before we got married. I hadn't heard from her since the wedding. I answered, unsure what to expect. "Valerie." "Alyssa?" She took a breath. "I know this is out of the blue, but there's something I need to tell you." Something I should have told you years ago. I felt my heart tighten. Go on. It's about Mason. Of course it was. She continued, her voice shaky. Back when you two got engaged, he told me he had ended things with me for good. But he didn't. He came to see me. Several times. Even after you two were married. I didn't know at first. He told me you two had called it off. I found out the truth later and cut him off immediately. I stood there frozen. The phone pressed to my ear. You're telling me he was cheating even before we walked down the aisle? Yes, she whispered. I was young. Naive. But I never forgot. And when I heard what he did to you, I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. I closed my eyes. Not because I was shocked, but because I wasn't. It wasn't just Chloe. It had never been just Chloe. Mason had always been this man. And I had spent years believing I somehow broke him. That I wasn't enough. That I got boring. Lost the spark. Became too mom and not enough wife. But that was the lie. The truth was, he came broken. And I had simply been his favorite place to hide that fact. That night, I didn't cry. I walked into my room, looked in the mirror, and whispered to myself, none of this was your fault. It sounds small, but it was everything. A few weeks later, Daniel and I took the kids on a weekend trip to the mountains. Lila and Max roasted marshmallows while Charlie chased squirrels. Daniel pulled me aside and handed me a tiny wrap box. I froze. He smiled. Relax. It's not what you think. I opened it, and inside was a silver pendant, shaped like a phoenix. It reminded me of you, he said. Burned, bruised, but still flying. I didn't say anything, just leaned in and kissed him gently. This wasn't a new fairy tale. This was my story. And if there was a next chapter, it would be written on my terms. So, here's what I've learned. Revenge isn't about destruction. It's about reclamation. Of your voice. Your time. Your power. Your joy. Mason didn't break me. He just showed me where the cracks were. And I turned them into gold. I'm not just divorced. I'm free. And this time, no one's taking that from me.